Hi everyone, this is Labbox for Greynoise, live from Defcon 24. I'm here with Georgia Whiteman, and she's actually the author of Penetration Testing and Introduction, a hands-on introduction to hacking. Yep. Okay, good.
It's a mouthful. Basically, we couldn't decide on the title, so we took both of them.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I can't say that 3 times in a row, but I think I was good. So, Georgia, is this your first DEFCON?
It's not my first DEF CON. I have been coming since I think either 18 or 19. So not as long as many have, for sure. I mean, there's plenty of people who've been here since 1 or 2, but it's definitely gotten bigger since I've been here.
Okay, right on. I have your book at home. I actually bought it a couple of months ago.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I love it because you really go into categorize it well. You go from like OSAN to using Nessus, which I now use for work, and it's thanks to like authors like you that I actually just got my first pen testing job.
That's
Junior
great.
pen tester.
Congratulations.
Yeah, man. So I have like some questions for you. Like, for example, what like. Some people have different approaches to penetration testing as to how, like, what kind of value they want to give their client. But what makes like a penetration test a good penetration test?
Well, I think to make a penetration test a good penetration test, it's all about what the client needs. You'll rarely find 2 clients who have the exact same thing in mind when they decide, I'm going to buy a pen test today. It may be they saw a competitor get breached, or they got orders from on high that they must have a pen test today because they partnered with someone or they've been bought out or something. So I think it's really important to speak to the client and really understand their reasoning behind the pen test, what they're looking to get out of it, instead of just being like, I'm going to be super elite today.
Right. Like, instead of just going like, okay, I'm going to pop this and then write, just say what I did, like how I got into it. But I feel like, do you, as part of your pen test, do you also write down like what you tried to do but it didn't work?
Absolutely. I think one of the things the clients like the best is things that were unsuccessful, things that they are doing well. So I'm very heavy on, these are the things that you're doing correctly. This is where you need to put more resources, but the resources you are using in these areas are working well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice to give them something.
Yeah,
to work
I know.
with,
You get the big like F at the top. It's nice to have something. You got your name right.
Yeah. And so sometimes like you come in and you approach things and your client will give you like a really small scope. Like, do you have tips on like how to deal with that? How do you approach a client that's like, well, I'd like a physical pen test, for example, but it can only be like from 5 to 7:30 p.m.
Only when there's a full moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's great that they're moving in the direction of the first pin test in a lot of those cases. I mean, I certainly do explain that, the more we put in scope, the more likely we are to get, a full scope, if you will, idea of their vulnerabilities and their risk. But I think the best endorsement is to, do a good job, not break anything, have them have a good first experience so they start to trust us. I think people as a whole tend to see us, we're the Mr. Robots or CSI Cyber, so we're going to cause havoc. I mean, even other people in the security industry are like, pen testers are flakes. So I think, be an ambassador for pen testing, and maybe next time they will be ready to take more risk with you.
And then be more than just maybe a checkbox component.
Right.
Yeah. A question I get a lot, actually, is how do you become a penetration tester? Like, maybe for you, like what was your path like, and how did you get into penetration testing?
Randomly. Well, I did something called the Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition when I was in school, and we played the blue team, we played the defense side, and they had this red team, and it was all industry professionals, and they just completely destroyed us, turned off our computers, like put up pop-up boxes, turned off the power, just completely ran rampant on our network. And I was like, I want to be that. I don't want to be this like defense thing. I want to be that. And luckily, like, they were willing to mentor me. Like, I had one of the red team members come to my school and just give, like, a workshop about how to be a penetration tester. I just called and asked. Yeah, I think, you'd think that, the people with the big scary badges at the con they're, going to be very unapproachable, but I think you have to realize that most people in InfoSec as a whole were, like, teased as children, so the idea that anybody likes us at all, we're always happy to talk to anybody who will give us the time of day, so I just went through, like, mentoring with them. I got a job as a penetration tester when I wasn't that good, but just, worked hard. I still continue to work hard. There's a lot of people who are a lot better than me, so just continued hard work, continued putting yourself out there at conferences like this.
Great.
You'll get there.
That's really cool. So how long until, like, what was your time from that competition until your first penetration testing job?
It was pretty quick. I got a penetration testing job straight out of school. Like I said, I wasn't very good at it. I had a college degree. I knew the theory of computer science. I knew, like, big O notation and theoretically had a program. But, I had taken a class on penetration testing. But, I didn't know that much at the time. So it was actually pretty fast. But in order to get, like, the better jobs with the better teams, I had to improve my skill set over the years.
Right on. What did you focus on? Like, was it programming? Was it, like, different like pen testing, like branches, like web application, physical?
I guess my first primary thing was doing network pen, try and get domain admin. Certainly there's a lot of web app stuff, so a good basic knowledge of that is definitely helpful. I've done a lot with mobile. Like, a lot of my research has been in mobile. There's a lot of work in mobile applications. I'm trying to work on the mobile devices themselves primarily. I really like exploit development. I mean, you don't typically write that many of your own exploits on a pen test, but it's a fascinating part of security, I think.
Right on. Do you have any advice for people that are looking to be pen testers? Anything they should be doing right now?
Well, you should buy my book and read it. Buying it is not enough. You have to read it and work through it. But I would think that I would always tell people, it's not a specific cert, it's not a specific degree, it's not a specific anything on your resume, that it's, putting yourself out there and differentiating yourself. There's going to be a lot of people with the certs. There's going to be a lot of people with the degrees. There's not going to be a lot of people who say, maybe contributed a Metasploit module or given a workshop at Defcon or ran a podcast like this. I mean, those are the kind of things that get you noticed, that there's going to be a lot of people wanting these jobs because of things like Mr. Robot and CSI Cyber. This is I guess, a sexy industry right now. So the differentiators are going to be the people who they can tell they take the time to build up their skill set, be part of the community. So that would be, my number one thing to say to do.
Okay. Right. And speaking of certs, you kind of touched on it a little bit. Like, what do you think? Do you think they're overrated? Do you think some certs? Yeah, okay, right. If you have that, like, for some people, OSCP, they find that to be, like, a pretty good indicator of skill.
I like any of the certs that do have a hands-on component. Like I said, I came out of school and I was a pen tester because I'd taken a class on it. We never did any hands-on stuff. So I like to see hands-on stuff. OSCP, Offensive Security Certified Professional one, that is a good baseline. My book kind of teaches to that. So if you want to take that, buy my book. Yeah, I think anything with a hands-on component, I mean, there's certainly lots of jobs in information security that have, no technical hands-on component, and those are absolutely necessary. As I've learned more and more in business, those roles are necessary, but if you are going to go into penetration testing, the hands-on is absolutely necessary.
And so, like, in school, you get kind of your basics, your CCNA classes, your networking classes, maybe some programming, stuff like that. But, like, once you're out in the professional fields, like, how do you keep your skills sharp? How do you learn, like, your new skills? Where do you go?
To conferences like here at Defcon, I try and keep up with the latest research. I try and look at podcasts, watch videos from other conferences, check out white papers and slide decks as they come out, check out new books. But there's just so much to learn, like, even in, say, mobile security. There's the apps, there's the forensics, there's the devices, and there's all the different kinds of devices. There's all the supporting infrastructure, enterprise mobility management, mobile antivirus. One person just simply cannot learn all of that, and that's just, one small field. So I think, you got to give yourself a break at some point. Nobody can be an expert at everything.
Right. It is hard. And so, actually, you were speaking at the conference. How was that experience like?
It was really good. I think that this is, one of the flagship or best known conferences, especially like outside of the industry. People are like, have you spoken at Defcon? So, yeah, it's been a good experience. This conference gets bigger every year. I swear, it is so busy. But I mean, that just shows how popular it is. This is two casinos now, and we fill all of it. So
I think it was like 20. There's gonna be around 24 grand, like 24,000 people this year, and they ran out.
Yeah, it's huge. It's really huge. That just shows how popular we are.
Yeah, have you been to like smaller ones like besides?
I have. I've been to everything from big ones like this in Blackadder ShmooCon, and they cap it at a certain amount. I've been to a lot of the B-sides. I've been to conferences and like destinations. Like I went to the Maldives for a security conference. Yeah, I sometimes do travel to security conferences, which is awesome because they put you up in like a hotel on the beach and you go buy a jet ski for the weekend kind of thing. Yeah, be a security speaker and then you get to ride a jet ski and somebody else pays for it. Yeah, it's totally worth it. But yeah, so I mean in that case it was generally people from the Maldives who came. So it's been everything from the biggest to the smallest. I did the first B-sides in Jackson, Mississippi. I was the keynoter, and it being the first year, like I think it was probably one of the few times it's been like mainly middle-aged women in the audience because my mom was there and she invited all her friends.
Oh, really?
They all came to see me, so it was middle-aged women, primarily.
I love that. That's great. So your family's like there and supporting you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, my dad's been to a couple of them, and my mom's been to some as well.
That's
yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. Oh my god. One of my favorite things about listening to podcaster interviews are always interesting stories. What was your most memorable engagement?
Most memorable engagement.
Like which one was, or maybe like the hardest, where you're like you thought something was impossible, but it turned out to be okay.
Well, I think that, they're all interesting, and, I certainly can't get into any specific details, but I think that, what's interesting to me is going from, a really small compromise, like I've seen some talks on it, like low to critical, like you start with a low and you end up with domain admin, so something really small, like, you find one box all by itself that it was a domain admin once, but now it's just hanging out over there by itself. So you break into that one as you do, and it's like, oh, I've not want anything, but you find something there that gets you in somewhere better. So, I enjoy all of them, but I really like the stuff that, it's not the computer couldn't have done it for me. I couldn't have just popped out the core impacts or the Metasploits or the Nessuses, but that it actually took a human being.
Oh, right. So you like the challenge.
I do. I like the challenge. I don't want to be replaced by a computer because I don't know what I would do.
Well, speaking of which, I'm sure you've heard, some people are like, oh, well, I don't know about the future of penetration testers because we can just replace them with really, really good scripts or really, really good programs and automate. What do you think about that?
Well, on the one hand, I now am in the security product business, so I did create a product of my own that I launched this week.
Which one?
It's called Daga. It's from my company Shavira, so it's mobile penetration testing, so not pen testing from the phone, not pen testing the apps, but pen testing the entire mobile infrastructure, so the devices, the enterprise mobility management. So trying to do something like Nessus or Metasploit would do for your traditional devices for mobile. So being in that business of automating, I have to be because then we sell tools, but yeah, being a penetration tester, it is, you don't want to see it go away. I don't think it'll ever get to the point that we'll be obsolete. But then I watched something like the Cyber Grand Challenge where machines are patching themselves based on exploits they're seeing, and I'm just like, okay, computers are smarter than me, I'm going to go play chess. So, yeah, I could see it happening that a lot of things are, commoditized to the point that products can do it for you, but I think, the really hard stuff is going to require a person, with chess, it's the computer can beat the grandmaster until the grandmaster does something really weird, like sacrifice a piece, and then the computer doesn't know what to do. So I think we're always going to win on that front.
I agree. I think, it's funny because I hear that from people from the security community, but then I'm like, have you looked at the states of a lot of company security? It's just not really being applied properly all over the place, and can't even go into let's look at industrial control systems, for example.
Oh my.
That's a whole other ball game, right?
Yeah, it's kind of sad when you, and I mean, I've written some bad code in my life, believe me. I've written code that if it doesn't see exactly what it's expecting to see, it's just like, I don't know what to do, and falls down. And that's what you see, a lot of times with that. They just, didn't expect anything else. But, I mean, that was security 20 years ago, so we'll get there. We will. It'll be slow and it'll be hard, but we'll get to the point where this stuff is going to work.
Okay, right on. So you just came out with this product. Do you have any other projects that you're working on right now?
Well, I am doing a startup with the product, so I went through an accelerator called Mach 37 about a year ago. So I had done a bunch of consulting on the side, for myself, so I wouldn't have to get a job, I guess. So a lot of subcontracting and things like that. But I decided to take it to the next level and go the startup route. I'm going to be a big security person, like, over at Black Hat. They're going to have my face on the vendor floor,
yes.
That sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm going big on that. So it's like, on the one hand, I'd love to do research. I want to be like in the trenches giving the talks, but on the other hand, the time spent like building the products, building the customer base, all the business side stuff that we computer people typically don't like. I'm learning that, I need to fill in the gaps with people like CEOs and salespeople. So it's been a real learning experience around business this past year, which is, again, maybe not so sexy to us technical people, but you can't get very far with just the technical. When you're not going to be able to sell pen tests if you're just the computer person. You've got to be able to speak to the customer. The report is the most important part. So those soft skills that we don't necessarily like are really important that we work on those.
That actually brings up a good point in that, sometimes as a penetration tester, you're coming in engagement, and you see that a lot of maybe like the flaws or the vulnerabilities, or it's just, or how like it's just way too easy to fish because maybe the company doesn't have that security culture. Mm-hmm. And then how do you address that with the company? What do you do like as a single individual to try to make a difference to help secure a company? Do you have any approaches? Do you have like any like phrases, advice that you use with some of your clients?
Well, a lot of times, like for instance, with security awareness, I will point them to someone who does that well, because like I said, you can't do everything well yourself. There are good friends of mine who does specifically what they do is like security awareness culture. So I might suggest a couple of potential vendors. Try and be vendor neutral, but we always like our friends. I think, I oftentimes come back the next year and see all the same vulnerabilities. Like, why'd you buy the pen test in the first place? I mean, they've got a lot of other things going on. I think we need to realize as an industry that, to most people, we're an afterthought. We don't have near the industry size as, a friend of mine likes to say, he's about as famous as like your mid-range dentist. So, I mean, and he's very famous in hacking. So, I mean, our product as a whole is an afterthought to most people that, there's a lot of other things going on in their mind. Having written security tools myself with vulnerabilities in them because making them run was my most important factor. Making them run securely was like, I'll do that after release. So I can totally understand how this stuff happens. So, it's just, our business model is to try and fix this stuff. If they don't fix it, then they get to pay us again next year.
Right. That's what you bring, like, that reminds me, there was, like, this talk I saw, and I forget the speaker, but he was like, well, as penetration testers, we have a lot of access to networks, we have, like, internal access, we just, but who's keeping an eye on the security of the penetration testers? Like, how, like...
It's absolutely true. Absolutely true. I just kind of was like, I'm going to run my own company. So, yeah, it was like when I started doing, like, subcontracting for bigger firms and they're like, insurance and, like, security of your pen testing boxes. What do you do with data afterwards? It's like, yeah, I should probably be thinking about stuff like this. So, I, even as a security person, had to, develop some security maturity. That's stuff we may not even think about. We're too busy, like, popping boxes. It's like, yeah, I should probably take care of my customer data. So I can say that I have an A+ in that area now. But I think, yeah, it's definitely important, and it's something that's often overlooked.
Yeah, that is. I haven't seen a book on, hey, how to secure yourself as a penetration tester. I know.
I've definitely had it come up that, like, you know, somebody's given me a box to go do the pin test, and then I, you know, run the scan, and I'm like, oh, wow, that was really vulnerable. Oh, that's me. Oops.
Yeah. Like, you see the vulnerability stuff on your Nessus scanner, you're like,
yeah,
that's me right
yeah,
there.
the most vulnerable one on the network is the box that I brought into this place. Oops. Yeah, I think, you know, over time, I've, you know, had to become a bit more mature, and I guess that's the problem, isn't it? That I, you know, got as far as I did without developing that maturity. It's like, luckily no one sued me, so I didn't know I had to have insurance. Now I do, I swear. I have all the right paperwork, all the right insurance, all the right processes in place, but I mean, a lot of people, you know, we can write exploits, we can pen test, we're good to go. So, yeah, I think a lot of people don't think about that.
Right. Or another thing I always wonder about is, you know, we use repos, like big companies like online, like SourceForge, GitHub. You know, sure, like for GitHub, the code's there, but like for things like SourceForge, I'm like, like if we're downloading these tools, who's just double checking that they're not compromised if we're using them a lot?
Yeah, that's very important that, you know, anybody can put out a tool. It doesn't necessarily, especially with, you know, we have bad elements in our community as anyone does, but, you know, you never really know. I think the same thing. I was thinking about this, like, for my workshop, I just, you know, wanted 7-zip just so people could unzip their materials, and I'm like, you know, every time I download this, I'm like, I should really put it through the reverse engineering tools, but never find the time.
Right, just to double check. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it could happen. I mean, it's like, I think, you know, we get a lot of press for things like Pokemon Go. It's like, oh, it has a lot of permissions, but it's like, if you look at most of the apps on your phone, they have those permissions.
That got way too much press.
It did. Like, the media can be interesting about the things they pick up and when. You could do real case studies on stuff like that. When you see, like, you know, when the JBoss console stuff came out in the media and it was just blowing up, and I'm like, me and every other pen tester in the world have been using that for years and years. I don't know why you're talking about it now, but something just takes off. So.
Yeah, I know, it's weird. Well, we're hoping to change that with our tiny podcast.
Every little bit helps.
Which, Georgia, thank you so much for
thank you for having me.
On
yeah.
Greynoise, and your book is out. It's been out for a while.
Yeah.
Georgia Whitman, penetration testing and a hands-on introduction to hacking.
Yes.
Yes, I got it. And you can find it on No Source Press.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Zenify from the Greynoise podcast. Thanks for watching our videos. Remember, we stream live and record at the Sin Shop every Friday night here in Las Vegas. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on our videos, and also join in on our IRC chats. I hear they're pretty rad, even though Greybot's kind of a dick. Thanks. See ya.